Salvete omnes, Magisha Foley here, and it is another Culture Day. So, 16 days before the calends of March happens to be, you guessed it, February 14th, which in the modern world we say is Valentine's Day. And usually, plastered in all the stores would be symbols like this and images like this. So, right now you've been struck by a Cupid. Anyways, in the modern day world, February 14th, we see a bunch of different things coming about, such as chocolate, Valentine's Day cards, jewelry, stuffed animals, flowers, which I'll be talking about later as you all have your carnations and whatnot. Also would be romance and love stories, love movies come out, rom-coms, whatever. And that is what we're going to be spending some time today looking at. One of my favorite myths that ties into some classical love stories. And of course other things happen on February 14th too, right? ... Anyways, the myth we'll be talking about today is that of Cupid and Psyche. So in order to understand Cupid and Psyche, you need to understand Cupid and Venus. Now they have other names. Cupid is also known as Eros, or love, and Venus is also known as Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, love, lust, desire, etc. And Cupid is her son. His father is unknown. Most people attribute it to Aries or Mars because they did have an affair. However, he has wings and he's very mischievous. So I like to think that his father is Mercury or Hermes, but I have no evidence to back that up. That's just in my head. Anyways, Venus used to have temples and people would sacrifice to her because she's so beautiful, and that's what you did during this time period of religion. However, there was this beautiful maiden named Psyche, and she was so beautiful that people decided to stop worshiping Venus and would worship this real living human being instead, a living Aphrodite, Venus, if you will. And Venus got really, really upset by this because they stopped worshiping her. So she called Cupid and said, "Cupid, go take your magical arrows and make her fall in love with a monster." So he's always up for a fun night out on the town, so Cupid goes. However, when he sees her, he falls in love. And at the same time, Psyche is the youngest of 3 daughters. So she has 2 older sisters, and they've been married off to bold, ugly, fat men, whatever. And the parents of Psyche are getting really distraught and dismayed because no one wants to marry her, which is odd, even though she's so beautiful. So they go seek out the oracle, which is Apollo's prophecy, and this is very cryptic as usual. And eventually the prophecy says that she is in fact destined to be with a god. However, this god is very destructive. And of course the oracles tend to be mistaken and misunderstood, and the father thinks that this must mean Hades or Pluto, the god of the underworld. So they set up a funerary marriage, so she's all dressed up and they have a procession and they leave her on a cliffside to die. However, Cupid's in love with her, so he asks Zephyr, a wind god, to pick her up while she's asleep and brings her to his enchanted house. Mansion. Everything you could possibly want is there. And what's interesting is Psyche is relieved because she's surrounded by riches, but she keeps hearing these voices, and a bath is made up for her and a feast, but she doesn't see anybody. Ring any bells? Anyways, at night, Cupid comes to visit her, and they become a married couple, but he has one condition. He says to her, "You can live in this luxury with me, but you can never see what I look like. You can never know my identity." And of course, you know, she's alive and living pretty well, living the dream, so she agrees. However, her sisters go to visit, or go to try to find her and visit her, but she's gone. So she starts getting homesick and asks Cupid if they can visit, and he is very reluctant, but eventually says okay. So they visit, and of course they're jealous by all of her jewels, etc., and asks about her husband, and she can't really give any good answers. So they're suspicious. So they leave and they start coming up with a plot. And eventually Psyche wants them to visit again, and Cupid gives her a warning. And she promises and promises, and the sisters this time convince her that she's married to a serpent monster. So that night, while they are sleeping and Cupid's fast asleep, she takes a candle and holds it up to see what he looks like. And at that moment, she realizes how much of a mistake she actually made. Because what she sees is something beyond beautiful. So we get this story from a Latin author named Apuleius in the 2nd century. And it is a novel, a story within a novel. So he wrote the novel and it's called The Golden Ass, ha ha ha. Basically, the major character got turned into a donkey and he overhears the story of Cupid and Psyche while he is a donkey. So it's a story within a story. Anyways, what she sees is this golden hair dripping with ambrosia. So that means he's definitely a god. And he is so beautiful that the lamplight or candle itself flickered uncertainly. So even the environment reacts to how beautiful he is. And since we're focusing on Parsifals, it is a beautiful description. The flying god had sparkled wings with glistening sheen. So we have Parsival, Parsival, Parsival. But also what's very neat about this description is that even though he is asleep, his wings never sleep, and they are there, and they quivered and rippled in incessant play. So always showing his personality. And of course he has his bow, quiver, and arrows. So she realizes that it's him, and you know, it's kind of correct, that oracle, because man, he has wings attached to his back. So yeah, kind of a monster. Also, he's always up to no good, causing people to fall in love when they shouldn't. Destruction. So, sort of true. And this is a typical, more accurate depiction rather than the fat, chubby kids. He has his impressive set of wings and his quiver with a nice set of hair. And he is a man in his prime of life. So, very attractive. And she can't believe what she sees. And unfortunately, she forgets what she's doing and she wounds him with that wax. The wax drips on his shoulder. He wakes up. He realizes what she did. He feels so betrayed and he's in pain. So he goes and takes refuge with, of course, who else would you go to? His mother. And the mother is furious because he did what she didn't want him to do. She wanted Psyche to not be a problem, and now she's a huge problem. So Psyche's trying to find him, Venus is trying to find her, and eventually they meet, and Venus, in her anger, sets up some challenges. The first challenge is she puts Psyche in a giant room with an enormous pile of mixed seeds and says you need to sort these all into their types of seeds, and you have only until the morning to do that. She doesn't know what to do. That night, however, an army of ants save the day, and they take pity on her and very quickly and efficiently make individually perfect piles. In the morning, Venus comes. She's furious. She sets up the second task. You need to get golden fleece. However, these sheep were extremely fierce and dangerous. So she's sitting on the riverbank near them, doesn't know what to do, but all of a sudden the reeds talk to her and say, just wait for them to be done drinking and they go up the hill, and then you can just collect all of the fleece they've left behind. Brilliant. However, not brilliant for Venus. She's even more upset. So she says, I need to make this more difficult. See that black waterfall? That's the river Styx. You need to fill this jar up with water from the river Styx. Problem. Treacherous terrain. You need to have wings to get there. She doesn't have wings. So what is she going to do? At the most opportune time, an eagle swoops down, takes her water jug, fills it up with the water, and therefore helps her succeed in the third task. So now Venus, really upset, says, okay, I need to send this chick to a place where she can never come back from. And of course, that would be the underworld. And the underworld is only a place where the best of the best heroes actually go to and come back out alive, such as Hercules, Orpheus, Aeneas, etc. Never a mortal female woman. Some people say Persephone, Proserpina, however, she was already immortal. Queen of the underworld, different story. So Venus gives her a box and says, I need some more of Persephone's beauty. So you need to bring this to her and make her put beauty in the box. Whatever you say, Venus, I really want to make things right, so okay, I will try. So she's trying to find an entrance to the underworld. She passes a tower. The tower reminds her that she needs some coins for Charon, the ferryman. And also, you should probably bring some honey cakes because, oh yeah, there's a three-headed monster dog down there. And, you know, You should probably have a plan for him. She does as she's told. She follows the advice and eventually makes it to Persephone, and Persephone takes pity on her and gives her, or fills the box. Psyche makes it successfully out of the underworld, but it's a woman in a box. She gets curious. She says, I've been doing all these horrible labors. I'm tired. I'm not looking so great. I'm married to Cupid, god of love. I should probably just take a little bit for myself. She opens the box, and inside is eternal sleep. So here she is with her box, and of course sleep is a theme in a lot of fairy tales. Anyway, she's passed out, and at the same time, Cupid's love for her conquers everything, and he goes and finds her, and they reunite. And often in art, they're depicted as kissing statues, which is very provocative at the time. This is at the Capitoline Museum. And the issue, though, is he's immortal, she's mortal, so he needs to go to Jupiter and get some help. And he explains his dilemma and asks for a favor and says, can you please make it so Psyche can live up on Mount Olympus with me? And Jupiter is touched by the request of the mischievous boy, settling down, maturing a little bit, so he says okay, and Cupid goes and gets Psyche. They bring her up to Mount Olympus. She sips some ambrosia, therefore becoming a member of Mount Olympus, and this is at the Museum of Fine Arts. Now the story of Cupid and Psyche is also famous, and there is a beautiful ceiling mural at a villa in Rome that this is a marriage of Cupid and Psyche, and there's also the Council of the Gods where they had to discuss and make sure that everyone agreed with this. And it's neat because it depicts all of the gods and their different attributes. But this is beautiful on the ceiling in this villa. Also, we have this painting at the Museum of Fine Arts, which tells the whole story from left to right. So starting here, Oracle, etc., etc. She's asleep. He then takes her up to Mount Olympus right here. You also have a house at Ostia, Port City in Italy, and again they found the kissing statues. But the most famous is at the Louvre in Paris, and here you go, very beautiful and elegant, and it's replicated in New York City. And so the more you look around for Cupid and Psyche, there they are, but they're very rarely talked about. And this brings me to our cultural topic, and that would be the festival of Lupercalia. So get excited for class tomorrow.